Ever get stuck with a teammate who just isn't pulling their weight?
Oh, yeah. We've all been there. It's like you're carrying extra baggage, right?
So, and it can be super frustrating. That's actually what we're diving into today, those free riders on team projects.
Ah, the classic teamwork dilemma.
Right. And we've got some really interesting insights in this article in continuous improvement. They offer some practical tips on handling the situation. But get this, they also challenge us to think about whether finishing the project and moving on is really the best solution for everyone, even the free rider.
Interesting. Sounds like they're taking a pretty holistic view. I like that.
Yeah, it's not just about getting the work done, it's about the bigger picture.
Yeah.
But before we get too philosophical, maybe we should start with the basics. What exactly does the article consider a free rider? How do they define it?
Well, they point to a few specific behaviors, like consistently missing meetings is a big red flag.
Yeah, that's definitely not a good sign.
Right. And then there's constantly failing to meet deadlines or not living up to the expectations of their role and even struggling to understand what their role is in the first place.
So it's not just about a lack of enthusiasm. It's about a pattern of not contributing their fair share.
Exactly.
That makes you wonder, what's going on behind the scenes?
Right. And the article really cautions against jumping to conclusions. They make a good point about the importance of understanding the why behind someone's lack of participation.
Makes sense. Could be external factors.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
they could be juggling a crazy part-time job.
Okay.
Or dealing with family issues or health problems even. The article actually shares this story about a student who was labeled a free rider. Turns out they were the primary caregiver for a sick family member.
Wow, that puts things in perspective.
Right. Imagine the guilt and pressure they must have been feeling. It's a powerful reminder not to judge too quickly.
Totally. But sometimes the reasons might be more about what's happening within the group itself. The article talks about that too, right?
Yeah, they emphasize creating an inclusive team environment where everyone feels comfortable speaking up and sharing their ideas.
So it's about making sure everyone feels valued and heard.
Exactly. And they give this example of a team where a few dominant voices kind of took over, you know? So some members started feeling like their input wasn't really valued, so they just kind of checked out.
It's fascinating how this free rider problem can actually reveal deeper issues within the team dynamic.
Totally agree.
Okay, so let's get practical. How do we actually address this? The article suggests a multi-pronged approach, starting with communication and support. What stood out to you?
Well, I think the emphasis on regular check-ins is really smart. It creates a system of accountability, but in a supportive way.
Yeah, so it's not about micromanaging. It's about checking in and making sure everyone's on track and feeling supported.
Exactly. They even suggest pairing the person who's struggling with a more engaged team member, kind of like a mentor, just to offer guidance and support, you know?
That's a great idea. And I bet aligning tasks with people's skills and interests could really help re-energize someone who's feeling disconnected.
Oh, definitely. There's this great example in the article where a team did just that. They redistributed tasks based on individual skills. And guess what? The free rider ended up taking ownership of this really crucial part of the project and totally rocked it.
That's awesome. It's like turning a challenge into an opportunity for growth, both for the individual and the team.
Exactly.
Now, the article also emphasizes the importance of feedback, right?
Yes, and they're very specific about the kind of feedback. It needs to be regular, it needs to be constructive, and it needs to be delivered in a safe and supportive environment.
Yeah, so it's not about criticizing or blaming. It's about having an open and honest conversation.
Exactly. And they argue that these feedback sessions can be super valuable in addressing concerns early on and, course correcting before things escalate.
Yeah.
It's all about creating a culture of open communication where everyone feels comfortable sharing their progress, their challenges, and just their overall experience.
And that all ties back to the importance of good leadership, right? The team leader really sets the tone for how these conversations happen.
Oh, absolutely. The article is really clear about the need for an empathetic and collaborative leadership style.
So it's less about being a dictator and more about being a facilitator.
Yeah, exactly. It's about empowering every team member to succeed.
Now, sometimes a little nudge can be helpful too, like gently reminding the person about the potential impact on their reputation.
Right, their future opportunities. That can be a motivator, but it definitely needs to be done with sensitivity. You don't want to come across as threatening or judgmental.
For sure. But what happens when we've tried all these supportive measures and things still aren't improving? The article talks about seeking external help at that point, right?
Yeah, involving a supervisor or advisor who can provide an objective perspective. They might be able to mediate the situation or help the team come up with a new approach.
Like a fresh pair of eyes on the problem.
Exactly. And there's this really interesting case study in the article where involving a third party actually helped the team uncover some underlying issues that had been brewing for a while.
So sometimes getting an outside perspective can be the key to unlocking a solution.
It can be a real breakthrough.
But eventually, there might be a point where the team has to make a tough decision, right? Like, do we just cut our losses and move on?
Exactly. And the article frames it as this really crucial question. Is it better to just endure the situation and get the project done, or is it necessary to escalate things, maybe even issue an ultimatum?
It's tough because, a lot of teams just want to push through and get it over with.
Yeah, it's tempting to just sweep it under the rug.
Mhm.
But the article challenges that approach, They really want us to consider the long-term implications for everyone, including the free rider.
So sometimes confronting the issue head on, even if it's uncomfortable, might be the better choice in the long run.
Exactly. It might be a tougher lesson, but it's a more valuable one.
That's a really good point. Because if we just ignore the problem, it could fester and create resentment within the team.
Totally. And it might even impact the quality of the work overall.
And let's be honest, by not addressing it directly, we're not really doing the free rider any favors either.
Exactly. They're missing out on the chance to grow and develop their teamwork skills.
So this free rider issue is really about so much more than just completing a project, isn't it? It's about building a strong and healthy team dynamic where everyone can contribute and thrive.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's a valuable learning experience for everyone involved. And honestly, those are the lessons that stick with us and make us better team players in the long run.
Absolutely. Well, I think this deep dive has given us a lot to think about. We've learned how to identify free rider behavior, understand the potential causes, and explore a whole range of strategies for addressing the situation. From offering support and guidance to, in some cases, even seeking external help.
And maybe the biggest takeaway is this. Instead of just focusing on fixing the free rider, we need to look at the situation holistically and ask ourselves what will truly benefit everyone involved in the long run.
Great advice. And thanks for joining me for this deep dive. I'm sure our listeners will find these insights incredibly helpful.
You got it. Always happy to chat about teamwork and all its complexities.